Lost was a big deal, easily the most popular and talked about TV series of its time. But why? Well, on the surface, it appears to be just about a bunch of people who crash-landed on a deserted island. But it's way more complicated than that. This is no ordinary island, and this is no ordinary show, with the most controversial ending in TV series history that left the fanbase completely divided, and I cannot wait to give my take on it. But before we talk about that, we've got a very interesting journey ahead of us by watching every episode of Lost.
It's a place where miracles happen.
This is Jack. He's alive, and by some miracle, so too are a bunch of other people who were aboard this plane before it crashed. Jack rushes around the beach to help everyone, announcing that he's a doctor and far more capable of helping than others.
Her head's not tilted far back enough. You're blowing air into her stomach.
You sure? I'm a lifeguard. I'm licensed.
Yeah, well, you need to seriously think about giving that license back.
The scene is absolute chaos. There's people passed out, there's still people strapped in their seats dangling upside down, and there's also this Australian girl who demands Jack's immediate attention because she's crazy attractive. I mean crazy pregnant.
Please, Ellen, I'm having contractions.
How many months pregnant are you?
I'm nearly 8 months.
There's quite a few characters to get to know here, so I'll introduce them when they become the focus. First up is Kate. She comes across unsure of herself, not believing that she can help Jack stitch up his wound. To help her through this, Jack describes a traumatic surgery he performed where he almost botched it big time, and the only way he got through it was to let the fear in for 5 seconds, and then give the fear no more time and get your head back in the game.
If that had been me, I think I would have run for the door.
No, I don't think that's true. You're not running now.
As they sit around a campfire, Jack says they need to find the cockpit, as there's a good chance that if their half of the plane survived, the other half might be okay too. A fine plan, but what's that sound coming from the forest? Sounds like Mechagodzilla pounding an old-time factory whistle. Undeterred by this, Jack and Kate prepare their search mission, and this guy Charlie wants in. Kate feels like she's seen him before, and he says, well, of course you have, I'm in a famous rock band. That hasn't been relevant for many years.
You ever heard of Drive Shaft?
You all, everybody. You all, everybody.
Good thing he's not the vocalist. Also, what kind of lame, redundant lyricism is that?
You all, everybody. You all, everybody.
You all, everybody. Isn't that like saying, all the people, everyone? Hello, this is a greeting. 1 + 1, 3 - 1. Before we continue the search party, it's important to note that this show is filled to the brim with flashbacks, which can sometimes consist of small details that might not seem very significant now, but will be significant later on. This flashback of the plane journey before the crash is good though. It shows Jack calming down this nervous flyer called Rose, who was waiting for her husband to get back from the bathroom, and then bang! She's later seen crying on the beach, so we assume that her husband is fish food. They find the front of the plane propped up by a tree, and when they climb inside, the pilot does a jump scare. As the pilot describes how the plane made an emergency detour, they realise that Charlie's not there, and Kate finds him looking suspicious about what he was doing in the bathroom.
What are you doing in the bathroom?
What?
No time for questions though, because the monster's back and eats the pilot. Luckily, Jack managed to grab the transceiver before they hauled arse out of there. They temporarily get separated and Kate calls out for Jack, but then Charlie turns up. Charlie feels overlooked that she would only call for Jack.
I heard you shout, Jack. I'm Charlie, by the way.
They look up, wondering what kind of creature could leave a rack of barbecue ribs that high up in the tree. It's actually the mangled corpse of the pilot, but please don't tell YouTube. I need the ad revenue.
Guys, where are we?
Charlie's being questioned about his bathroom visit again, and he plays it off as being sick. But his flashback shows that he's lying. He's all twitchy on the plane, rousing suspicion with the flight staff. He runs off to the bathroom so that he can rub some smack into his gums before flushing the rest. but the turbulence hits before he can press the lever. Back on the beach, we have this lady called Shannon, and she's making herself useless, sunning it up while she chats to Claire, who's worried about her baby as it hasn't moved since the crash. Shannon's brother Boone tuts at her for not wanting to join in with the work. Also at odds with each other are husband and wife Jin and Sun. Jin comes across like a controlling dick, and Sun seems like a kind but unconfident soul, who can't even talk to another man without being criticised for having her top button open, exposing her collarbone. Whoa, settle down lady, have some class. You might as well be naked, right? This guy Michael is looking for his son Walt. Walt doesn't seem too keen on Daddy, and when he speaks with this bald guy on the beach, he explains that he used to live with his mum but she died.
She got sick. She died a couple of weeks ago,
You're having a bad month.
I guess.
This bald guy's name is John Locke. He's been a mysterious fella from the start, embracing the rain instead of taking shelter from it, giving Kate this weird clown smile. And now as he talks with Walt, he decides to share a secret with him. We don't find out what the secret is yet, but let me tell you, it's a pretty shocking one. The next two guys to talk about are in a fistfight. In the red corner, we have Sawyer, a smack-talking Tennessee man who's accusing his opponent in the blue corner of being a terror bird. Pretty sure I can't say the actual word. His name is Saeed, and he was a communications officer for the Iraqi Republican Guard. They both accuse each other of being the person that was in handcuffs on the plane.
Look, my kid found these in the jungle. And this guy was sitting in the back row of business class the whole flight, never got up.
They stop bickering when Saeed is given the task of fixing the transceiver. When fixed, he says they might only get one shot of getting a signal because the battery is very low. And to ensure their best chance of getting a signal, they've got to climb the highest mountain. Kate wants to join the hike, but before she leaves, she goes to check in on the guy that Jack's looking after. And the only reason she cares about this particular guy is because she was sitting next to him on the plane. Turns out he's not just some guy, he's a marshal. And the fugitive that was in handcuffs was Kate.
Now, there's always that off chance that they'll believe your story. I know I sure do.
When the turbulence hit, a case flew out and booped him on the head. And at some point during the crash, a piece of shrapnel stuck itself into him. So it's not looking good for his survival. Jack recruits this guy, Hurley, to help out with the treatment. But he gets all dizzy at the sight of blood.
Oh, what's going on?
Something
The strips,
in
just
there?
hand me the strips. Give it to me. Hey, don't even think about it, Hurley. Don't even think Hurley, hey! Damn it!
Hurley's probably the most fun character in this show, and he has one of the most random backstories, so we've got that to look forward to. When Saeed and the crew get high enough, they turn on the radio, and delights at hearing a voice being broadcast.
The French! The French are coming! I've never been so happy to hear the French!
Only problem is, it's a pre-recorded voice of a French woman, and Saeed figures out that it's been looping for several years. Shannon gets her moment to be useful, being the only one who speaks French.
I'm alone now. On the island alone. Please, someone come. The others, they're dead.
This finding only raises more questions than it answers.
Guys, where are we?
Oh, and also they came across a polar bear that Sawyer shot and killed.
That can't be a polar bear.
It's a polar bear. Wait a minute. Polar bears don't usually live in the jungle.
Spot on.
I get it, you know. Everyone deserves a fresh start.
Jack checks the marshal's pockets and finds Kate's mugshot. In the previous episode, he woke up just enough to warn him that she's dangerous, and this mugshot confirms it, I suppose. Quite a bit of this episode is dedicated to Kate's backstory. This Australian farmer finds her hiding out in his sheep pen, and immediately suspects that she's on the run from her past.
I get it, you know.
He gives her a job on the farm in exchange for temporary accommodation, but eventually he turns her into the police when a reward is advertised.
The reward's $23. I told you when I met you. I got a hell of a mortgage.
Tabula Rasa, the title of the episode, means blank slate or fresh start, something Kate has wanted since going on the run, and something she came close to with this island. If only her mugshot wasn't found and the marshal died during the crash. He's currently in a ton of pain, with Jack working himself to exhaustion trying to keep him alive.
Can't
let you put him out of his misery?
I saw your mugshot, Kate. I am not a murderer.
Sawyer convinces Kate that he needs to be put down, with the rationale that it's cruel to keep him suffering like this. But oh no, Sawyer messes up the shot and accidentally perforates his lung, prolonging the suffering.
I only had one bullet.
Get out. Get out!
The group already dislikes Sawyer, and here he is trying to do one thing right, but ballsing it up. You gotta feel bad for him.
Damn it!
Earlier on, Sayid got everyone to agree that keeping the French lady's broadcast a secret is the best way forward. If people knew about this broadcast that's been looping for 16 years with no answer, they will definitely lose hope of being rescued. Kate immediately breaks this agreement by telling Jack, and he's wondering if she's willing to come clean about who she really is. Walt is still annoyed at Daddy for not finding their dog Vincent, and Michael's upset that Walt seems to be connecting more with people like John Locke. He demands to know the secret that John told Walt, and the secret is...
Mr. Locke said a miracle happened to him.
Yeah, well, a miracle happened to all of us, Walt. We survived the plane crash.
John finds Vincent using a handmade dog whistle and lets Michael take the credit for it to mend their relationship. A really sweet thing to do, but the music that plays while John watches them rejoice suggests that there is much more to explore with his character.
Don't tell me what I can't do!
This might be my favourite episode of Lost. The gang investigate noises coming from the plane, and it turns out to be a family of boars.
They're gone.
The next morning, John reveals that he has hunting knives in his luggage, and sets out to catch a piglet assisted by Michael and Kate. Kate has been given a secret side mission of setting up a routing point so that Sayid can triangulate the source of the French lady's distress call.
If the French woman's transmissions have truly been playing on the loop for 16 years, then there must be a power source on the island. A significant one.
The mystery around who this John Locke fella is gets the gang speculating, but luckily for us, we get clued in with more flashbacks. And in these flashbacks, we see that he worked in an office where he was constantly criticised by his superior for showing an interest in war games.
Tell me about this colonel thing. Cruised your file in human resources? You've never been in any of the armed forces.
I'm just playing a game, Randy. It's my lunch hour. I can play a game.
He also scoffs at the idea that John has a romantic life, which, as it turns out, is just a call girl that John's become attached to.
I'm not allowed to meet customers.
Is that what I am to you?
This isn't really normal. I mean, it isn't what I do.
I thought you understood, Helen. You know me better than anyone.
John, if we talk any longer, I'm gonna have to charge you for another hour. That's another 89.
At this point, you do feel bad for him, but you can't help also thinking that he's a bit of a loser. Trust me though, that feeling won't last. See, he was also mocked for wanting to go on a walkabout, a strenuous journey across the outback, which is supposed to give you a spiritual awakening upon completion. Even the guy organising the walkabout doubts his ability, but not because he's ill-trained or anything, it's just that for a walkabout, you need to be able to walk about.
You neglected to tell us about your condition.
My condition is not an issue. I've lived with it for 4 years. It's never kept me from doing anything.
The despair on John's face as he begs to be let on the trip shows that he is tired of being held back by people's lack of faith in him.
Don't you walk away from me. You don't know who you're dealing with. Don't ever tell me what I can't do, ever!
This is my destiny.
I'm supposed to do this, damn it! Don't tell me what I can't do!
This line, "Don't tell me what I can't do," becomes John's catchphrase. With this in mind, we go back to the moment when John wakes up from the crash, and it's amazing to watch him in a euphoric state, as the chaos surrounding him doesn't really register with him, realising that he's now able to walk. So a miracle did happen here, but why and how? If you know the answer because you've seen this show before, I beg of you not to spoil it in the comment section. Let people discover it for themselves with this series of videos. It will make their experience so much more enjoyable. Aboard jumps the hunting party, and determined to finish the mission, John presses on without them. Kate climbs a tree to set up the routing antenna thing, and drops it in fear, hearing the forest monster tear through the jungle. The The monster approaches John and he looks up dumbfounded. My favourite composer Michael Giacchino delivers once again. This particular score, called Locked Out Again, that plays while John is going through his struggles and then feels liberated by the ability to walk, is truly awe-inspiring.
Don't tell me what I can't do! Don't tell me what I can't...
Every piece of music he wrote for this show is pure magic, and this won't be the last time I bring it up.
But if we can't live together, we're gonna die alone.
Another fantastic episode. This time it focuses on Jack. The first flashback is Jack as a kid, getting beaten up for defending another kid.
Should have stayed down, Jack.
It's hinted that his dad is a heavy drinker, and he teaches Jack a lesson about not being a hero, using a recent example where he, as the chief of surgery, can separate himself from the traumatic work he does by simply coming home and living life normally, aka leaving your work at work. And it also helps that he's drinking himself numb, but he doesn't say that part. On the island, Jack keeps seeing his dad in the distance, but when he runs to him, he disappears. A seemingly impossible experience considering that his dad is dead. Jack was on this flight to bring his dad's body home, and there's a scene where he's begging the flight desk lady to let him on board so that he can finally have closure.
I'm just standing in front of you in the same suit that I'm wearing to my father's funeral, and I'm asking you a favor. I need it to be over. I need to bury my father.
Such a powerful moment. From the contextual clues we have so far, we can tell how troubled his relationship with his father was. But it's not until later in the show that we understand just how difficult this must have been for Jack, and still lives with the ghost of Dad hanging over him. Jack's also been dealing with the constant demand at the beach. The water supply is running low and people keep turning to him for answers.
You tell the others we're running low.
That way we could ration it.
Then you can decide.
I'm not deciding anything.
This situation escalates when the water goes missing. John volunteers to go find a water source, and on his journey he comes to the rescue of Jack, who fell over the edge while running after the ghost of his dad. The two have a very meaningful conversation, where John helps Jack to acknowledge that this island is special, and maybe this vision of his dad that he's having is more than just a hallucination. John feels connected with this island, and everyone else feels it too.
But this place is different. It's special. The others don't want to talk about it because it scares them, but we all know it. I've looked into the eye of this island, and what I saw was beautiful.
John gets up to carry on looking for water and stops Jack from joining him, coming out with this fantastic piece of advice.
No, you need to finish what you started.
Because a leader can't lead until he knows where he's going.
Jack is the one who eventually finds a water source, and also his dad's coffin, which is mysteriously empty. He returns to the beach where the others are losing their cool at the discovery that Boone took the water. Jack breaks up the fight and says they need to start learning to be a team, otherwise this situation is going to be impossible to survive.
But we're all here now. And God knows how long we're gonna be here. But if we can't live together, we're gonna die alone.
In this episode, we also see Jin's overly protective side again, but in the end, you understand that he's just trying to be the husband that he believes he needs to be to protect Sun. It may seem a bit toxic on the surface, but like everything else in this show, there's nuance to discover. Out of nowhere, Jin attacks Michael, and no one can figure out why he would do this, with Sun being the only person who can communicate with him. Michael tries his best to explain that he didn't do anything to provoke it, and grows frustrated that no one believes him.
He tried to kill Michael. We all saw it. The cuffs stay on until we know why.
The flashbacks in this episode show us that Jin and Sun had a secret relationship, knowing that her father wouldn't give his approval of a low earner like Jin, only being able to afford a flower as a gift.
이게 다이먼 유 때문에 좋았을 텐데 언젠가는 그렇게 될 거야.
But then, much to her surprise, her father does give approval, on the condition that Jin works for him. Fast forward a couple of years and we see Jin returning from work covered in blood, hinting that whatever work he does for her father is something like a blood donation drive. Something really nice like that. Sun grows frustrated with his secrecy on the matter.
아버님이 시키는 대로 할 뿐이야. 나 우리를 위해서 하는 거야.
Man, that look just says it all. You really feel his frustration at being punished for simply trying to provide a good life for Sun. But this supposed good life is a farce when it involves such long hours and such dirty work. And eventually it breaks Sun's spirit, secretly arranging to run away from him when they're at the airport. But when the time comes, she takes another look at him, seeing him holding a flower, reminding her of the sweet man that still exists within the man who's lost his way, seeking approval from her father rather than from her. In her secret preparations, she also learnt English, and knows that she has to reveal this to Michael to resolve the situation.
Oh, great. Look who came to chat.
I need to talk to you.
I love Michael's reaction. He hasn't had much time to shine in this series yet, but he's a great character, and Harold Perrineau is perfectly cast.
You speak English?
Yes.
What? You speak English?
My husband doesn't know.
Why would you learn English and not tell your husband?
She tells him that Jim was angry because Michael was wearing a watch that belonged to Sun's father. Michael sets him free, explaining the best he can that he just found the watch on the beach and wasn't trying to steal anything.
And I figured, hey, why let a $20,000 watch go to waste? Which is ridiculous, since time doesn't matter on a damn island!
The gang make a decision on whether or not to stay on the beach or move to the cave further in the island, where Jack reasons is the best place because it has fresh water and shade. Some of the people are desperate to leave the island, however, reasoning that if a ship goes by, they don't want to miss their opportunity to be spotted. Locke becomes aware of Charlie's drug addiction and proposes that Charlie gives him the rest of the stash so that he can finally get clean. John says this island offers you a chance to get rid of your demons, but you've got to make your sacrifice willingly. Also, if he agrees to do this, he will find his guitar.
Look up, Charlie.
You're not gonna ask me to pray or something.
I want you to look up.
I can't stand feeling like this.
This episode is mostly about Charlie. His withdrawal's kicking hard, and John's trying to help him through it. Charlie demands to have the drugs back, but John instead offers him a free chance system. If he asks for the drugs back 2 more times, he will give them to him. This is John's way of testing Charlie's willpower. And it may seem cruel, like Charlie says, why not just chuck the drugs away to eliminate the temptation? But Locke says doing that wouldn't be a choice Charlie makes. And if he doesn't make his own choices, he won't become stronger through the experience.
And having choices, making decisions based on more than instinct is the only thing that separates you from him.
As it happens, there's a moth in a cocoon nearby, ready to hatch, and John explains that he could help the moth to escape, but then it would be too weak to survive, having not developed the strength itself. A very clever comparison, and I like how John praises the moth compared to its aesthetically pleasing cousin, the butterfly.
It's ironic butterflies get all the attention, but moths, they spin silk. They're stronger, they're faster.
That's wonderful.
Withdrawal isn't the only thing playing on his mind. He's been feeling overlooked by the group, always being pushed aside instead of relied on for help. And this plays into his perception that he's not a valuable person. In his band playing days, he felt that his older brother Liam was starting to take the spotlight away from him, and he watched as Liam started living the high life in more ways than one.
Chill, baby brother.
Feeling left behind, like the runt of the litter he always felt he was, he turns to taking the same drug, pushed further into this decision by his brother letting him down. Back in the day when the group pre-formed, he promised to look after Charlie.
If things get too crazy, no matter what, if I say we're done, we walk away.
We walk away.
Liam, promise.
We walk away.
Fast forward to when the band has broken up. Charlie comes to Liam asking if he would consider getting the band back together, and he grows angry at Liam for daring to judge him for still being on drugs, when it was his influence that got him addicted in the first place.
I'm just looking out for you. You never looked out for me.
Back to the present, Charlie confronts Jack about being overlooked, and his heated words cause the cave to collapse. Charlie's the only one small enough to fit through the gaps to go help Jack, but unfortunately on his way in, he causes another cave in. Charlie then spots the moth, which means there must be a way out of here, and so he leads them to safety. Everyone celebrates Charlie saving the day. It's a really nice moment seeing him finally getting the validation he needs.
Well, Charlie found a way out.
Dude, you rock!
With his spirits rekindled, he asks John for the drugs back. John prepares to be disappointed, but Charlie tosses the drugs into the fire. Probably shouldn't chuck them in the same fire that's cooking the boar though. That meat's gonna taste real funky. Saeed's mission to triangulate the signal works, but then someone knocks him out.
Want to know what kind of human being I am?
I hope you're wearing your Davidoff cool water aftershave, because it's Sawyer-in time. We learn how pre-crash he made a living as a con man, fooling women to invest in their rich husband's cash into some scam oil business. Fast forward to the present and he's still doing scummy things, like using Shannon's asthma pump as a bargaining chip.
Where is it? Hey, Doc. Long time no see.
Where is it?
Where's what?
Your girl's asthma medicine.
I don't know what kind of commie sharefest you're running over in Cave Town, but down here, possession's 9/10, and a man's got a right to protect his property.
Saeed reveals that he was an interrogator in the army, and Jack gives him the sign-off for torture time. Oh yeah, by the way, we don't know who booped Saeed on the head in the previous episode, and he spends some of this episode questioning people he suspects, like John.
I heard you were trying to send out a distress call. So it would seem whoever attacked you has a reason for not wanting to get off the island.
Saeed trims down some bamboo and uses the pointy bit to jam it in Sawyer's fingernails. Sawyer eventually cracks, only to reveal that he never had the medication. But why would anyone make themselves public enemy number one like this? Well, to answer that, I need to fill you in on some info that I previously skipped over. Part of Sawyer's story is that he carries around these letters, and Kate pushes him into revealing what the letters say. Actually, correction, it's just one letter. The letter tells of a story of a con man who caused a kid's dad to kill his mum when she got caught up in a romance scam. Then, unable to handle the guilt of what he just done, he turned the gun on himself. At first, we believe this letter was sent to Sawyer, but as it turns out, this letter was written by Sawyer.
Then I looked at the envelope. America's Bicentennial, Knoxville, Tennessee. You're just a kid. 8, maybe 9 years old. This letter wasn't written to you. You wrote this letter.
In his quest to find the man who did it, he got involved in the scamming biz, and ended up becoming the man he was hunting, so much so that he took on his enemy's name. In the later parts of his flashbacks, he opted out of the game when he saw the couple he was scamming had a kid, not wanting to put another child in Sawyer's situation. He believes that he's a scumbag just like the actual Sawyer, and behaves negatively around people so that he can be treated as such. Pretty messed up and sad when you think about it. On a lighter note, Charlie's trying to get friendly with Claire, and is willing to do anything to get into her panties, I mean good books. So when she says that she's been craving peanut butter, he starts hounding Hurley to give up the goods, assuming that because he's a chunky lad, he must be the one in charge of food.
We've been here for 2 weeks, you know, and you've not really...
Slim down much?
All I need is a bag of peanuts.
I have no food, all right? And for the record, I'm down a notch in my belt. Oh. I'm a big guy. It's gonna be a while before you're gonna want to give me a piggyback ride, okay?
Not wanting to disappoint, he encourages her to use her imagination and pretend that she's eating the world's best peanut butter.
Stick to the roof of your mouth. Oh, God, makes you want a glass of milk, extra smooth. It's the best bloody peanut butter I've ever tasted.
Wait, why is this making me hungry? I'm such a fat fuck, there's not even food on the screen. Saeed reveals that he broke a promise to himself when he tortured someone again, and feels like he needs to distance himself from the group, with the additional goal of mapping out the island, only to return when his head is clear and has some good information.
16 years. Has it really been that long?
While on the beach staring at a note from his long-lost love, Saeed notices a cable in the sand. One way leads into the ocean and the other way leads inland. He acts with caution, seeing a tripwire, but the real trap lays on the other side. He awakes tied to a bed with a woman asking him where Alex is. In his fuzzy state, he tries to explain that he doesn't know who Alex is, but this woman isn't having it. She too clearly has a fuzzy mind, questioning how long she's been solitary for.
16 years. Has it really been that long?
She starts listening to what Sayid has to say, but demands to know who the woman is on Sayid's note, so that she can fully trust his story. And the story is, this woman is called Nadia. She was being held captive by the army, and Sayid was assigned to interrogate her. It would have been just a regular day in the office, but Sayid actually knows her from school.
And your mother would tell my mother, why must you pick on little Sayid? And I'd answer, because he ignores me.
Through their interrogation sessions, they form a bond, and even until the bitter end, she refuses to give any useful information. When he's at the point of being in love with her, he shoots a guard and then himself to give her a chance of escaping.
Come with me.
I can't. Desertion. They would kill my family.
The other story is Hurley thinking of a way to give everyone a distraction from the doom and gloom, with Jack initially against the idea of relaxing.
Things could be worse.
Oh!
Hurley's big idea is a golf course, and of course Jack is quick to get stuck in, because doctors and golf go together like cops and donuts.
Doctor playing golf. Whew, boy howdy. Now I've heard everything. What's next? Cop eating a donut.
Oh, well, Sawyer steals medical supplies, so I don't feel too bad stealing his joke. I only wrote that part in to include him in this recap. In this episode, Sawyer doesn't really do much, but we do see Kate trying to convince him that he needs to make friends, because it'll make his life a bit easier. You never know who you might end up relying on one day, so be nice. Sayid gets caught breaking out, but she allows him to go back to the group, believing that he's an honest man and means her no harm. She claims that she's been hearing whispers in the forest, and at first Sayid believes it to be her mind playing tricks, having been alone for so long. But then on his way back home, he starts hearing the voices too. This one is all about Claire, a character I never cared about that much, and on rewatch I'm still not sure. She's having vivid nightmares about someone trying to take her baby.
You know what's happening.
But I don't understand. Why?
He was your responsibility, but you gave him away, Claire. Everyone pays the price now.
Jack tries to give a medical reason, but Charlie is simping for her big time, and truly believes that these aren't just nightmares, going as far as to have a go at Jack for daring to suggest otherwise.
You think she's making this up? She was terrified,
Look, she said that the guy was trying to hurt her baby. Why would someone do that now with all of us sleeping 20 feet away?
So you think she's lying?
No.
Yeah, Charlie's kind of annoying in this one. In her flashbacks, we see that Claire was nervous about being pregnant, but her boyfriend convinced her to keep the baby. Then, when reality starts setting in, he worries that having a baby will kill his creative ambitions, and so he breaks up with her. What a dick. Claire goes to a psychic because she believes in basic bitch things like astrology and fortune. Oh, Claire, you were almost a 10 out of 10. For the sake of this show, we'll pretend that there's any legitimacy in his abilities, because if we start questioning the legitimacy of psychics, the other elements of this show will fall like dominoes. The psychic insists on Claire having her money back because her future is too dark and scary to look at. But then he starts repeatedly calling her, saying, look, even though your boyfriend dumped you, you've got to keep this baby, otherwise it will be in danger. She ignores his advice, assuming he's crazy. Which, come on, Claire. You believe that being born on a particular month aligns you with certain personality traits, but you're not willing to believe this?
Are you a Gemini?
Yeah, I am.
I thought so. Restless, passionate. You know, everyone thinks astrology is just a load of crap, but...
You're right. You're absolutely right.
She does eventually cave into his pressure and agrees to go along with his plan of flying to Los Angeles, where a good fortune couple will take the baby. Coming back to the present, she realises that the psychic foresaw her crash. Hurley, whose real name is revealed to be Hugo, runs a census to make sure everyone in the group is accounted for. Boone then gives him the idea of cross-checking his list with the flight manifest, and it turns out there's one person who wasn't on the manifest. This guy called Ethan. Ethan approaches Claire and Charlie with suspicious intent.
If you
do not stop following me, I will kill one of them.
As they hunt for Charlie and Claire, we get more insight into why Jack is always so determined to be the protector. He relentlessly chases their trail, even though he's not the best guy for it. And John suggests that he goes back to base and be safe, to ensure the survival of the only doctor on this island. John Locke is smart. We already know that Jack has daddy issues, but this next flashback shows us why he is the way he is. Jack had to step in to replace his dad performing surgery. A doctor raised the alarm to Jack when she suspected that his dad was operating while drunk.
She told me that your hands were shaking.
My hands were not.
You cut her hepatic artery.
She was in a car crash, Jack. Her insides were a mess. You tell me, if you were upstairs and I was in a restaurant having lunch, then why did they call me?
How many drinks did you have at lunch, Dad?
The patient died, but his dad protests the idea that he was too drunk to perform, and makes Jack sign some paperwork to call it an accident. You really sympathise with Jack here, as he respects his dad so much, but questions his morals, knowing that signing this paperwork will save his dad's career. Later on, it's revealed that the patient was also pregnant. This pushes Jack to his limit, and he reveals the truth to the medical board.
I need to revise my statement.
Jack, this is
By
not
the time I got there, it was clear that my father was not only incapacitated, but that he had also severed the patient's hepatic artery, which, in my professional opinion, caused the crisis which led to her death.
You can imagine this isn't the first time he's had to cover for his dad, and this explains why he always feels that he needs to be the one to step up. While tracking, they discover the trail splits in two, meaning they also have to split up to continue. Jack slips down a hill where Ethan intercepts him and warns him to stop the pursuit.
If you do not stop following me, I will kill one of them.
Of course, Jack continues, and true to his word, Ethan hangs Charlie from a tree, and we get this really sad scene where Jack relentlessly attempts to bring him back to life, with Kate begging him to let go, reasonably assuming that it's too late as he's not been breathing for a while.
Come on! Come on! Come on, Charlie, come on!
The more upsetting part is the anguish on Jack's face. Like, he believes it's somehow his fault that the patient's dying on him. But then, by some miracle, Charlie comes back to life. John Locke and Boone get distracted from their search when they come across a weird, hollow-sounding sheet of metal buried in the dirt.
What is that? That's what we're gonna find out.
Sawyer and Kate find this heavenly-looking waterfall and decide to go for a swim. You can cut the sexual tension here with a knife. But their hormones quit raging when they come across some gross-looking bodies underwater. They find a briefcase that Kate insists on having, which gets Sawyer curious as to why she wants it so bad. So instead of giving her the case, he keeps it until she tells him what's inside. She refuses to say and keeps attempting to steal it.
Oh, easy, sweetheart. I don't really care what it is. What's burning me up is why it means so much to you.
Eventually running off, crying to Jack to tell on Sawyer. Jack too insists that she tells him what's inside, and they come to an agreement that Jack will get the case from Sawyer if they open it together. They dig up the marshal to get the key, but Kate tries pulling a fast one on Jack.
Key isn't in here.
It isn't?
No, but that was real good sleight of hand, distracting me with the wallet. Open it.
When they open it and it turns out all she wanted was this toy plane, Jack grows frustrated and demands to know what this is all about.
I want the truth. Just this once.
It belonged to the man I loved.
The truth.
It belonged to the man I loved.
Stop lying to me. Tell me the truth.
It belonged to the man I killed.
We get some Kate flashback to show that she was part of a bank robbery, but it turns out she was double-crossing her lover and their crew to get to a safety deposit box. I don't find this part all that interesting, but I am keen to rediscover the story behind this toy plane. Who was the man she killed and why? I honestly can't remember. Sayid recruits Shannon to translate some of the French lady's notes. The French lady's name is Danielle Rousseau. I think I forgot to mention that. Shannon warns that her translation skills are rough, but still Sayid loses his patience, causing her to storm off.
This was a mistake.
Yeah. Haven't you heard? I'm completely useless.
Later on, she comes back to him, remembering a kid's song where the lyrics match her notes.
La mer, qu'on voit danser.
Kind of feel like this would have been a good time for Sayid to apologise, but instead it's just implied that they made up. Charlie has been silent since he was saved, feeling guilty that he failed to save Claire. And this is where Rose steps in. She reminds him that everyone else is getting on with their lives and helping out. Everyone has their sob story to tell, but it doesn't excuse them from being part of the work. She then says that she believes her husband is still alive, even though he was on the part of the plane that is presumed to be lost at sea. Charlie breaks down and she comforts him by praying to God for help.
Heavenly Father, we thank you.
Rose soon becomes a great character in this, but at this point I'm not going to spoil it by telling you why.
I gave you an experience that I believed was vital to your survival on this island.
Sayid and Shannon are forming a bond, which makes protective brother Boone a bit jealous, and he warns Sayid to back off.
Stay away from my sister. For a moment, you seem to be giving me an order. It's just a friendly suggestion.
His protective nature comes from years of bailing Shannon out from situations with crappy partners. The worst case being when he flew all the way to Australia to save her, and it turns out she and her partner were running a scam on Boone. But then she comes crawling back to him when it turns out her partner was double-crossing her. In her drunken state, she begs him to admit that he's always loved her, and not in just a step-brotherly way.
Stop.
Yeah, they made sure to include the detail that they're just step-brother and sister. Thank God. The metal thing that Boone's been digging up with Locke is a hatch, but there's no handle and no way to open it. Boone gets frustrated and wants to tell Shannon the truth about what they're doing, but Locke isn't happy with that plan, so he knocks him out. He wakes up tied to a log, and Locke challenges him to free himself, saying he needs to learn to let go of things, whatever that's supposed to mean. Hours pass, and he's still not free, but then he hears Shannon screaming and suddenly has the motivation to free himself. But then when he's rescuing her, she gets eaten by the forest monster. When he returns to Locke, he threatens him for getting Shannon killed. But it turns out what he saw was a hallucination. Shannon is fine, and she's been with Sayid this whole time. Locke gave him a hallucinogenic drug to give him a spiritual journey. He reveals that when he was holding Shannon's dead body, he felt free, and no longer feels like he has to always be her protector. John knew that this drug would give him a mind-changing experience. It's all part of the Lost Islands plan.
You drugged me. I gave you an experience that I believed was vital to your survival on this island.
It wasn't real?
It was only as real as you made it.
While helping Sun with the gardening, Kate realises that she can understand her. So that's another person on the island that has to keep this a secret from Jin.
You speak English?
Please, don't tell anyone.
A penguin with a sunburn? That's dumb.
Yeah, I know.
Despite Michael's wishes, Walt keeps hanging around with Locke, and the following flashback helps us to understand why he's so disinterested in his dad. See, Walt's mum is a complete bitch. She decided that she wanted a better career, and the only way to do that was to move to Amsterdam, where she then got romantically involved with her boss.
You're not taking my son.
You can go if you want to, but Walt stays with me.
I'm trying to have a discussion with you.
No, you're not.
You know I've always wanted to do international law.
Am I supposed to be happy for you over here, for your huge opportunity?
Being a lawyer, she knew that she could get full custody of Walt, because Michael is out of work. So essentially, Michael was powerless to keep Walt in his life. He insists on travelling to Amsterdam to see his son, but then he gets hit by a car. But this didn't stop him sending letters and pictures in the mail. Bitch Mummy unexpectedly returns to pay his medical bills, hoping it would lessen the blow of giving him the news that she's going to marry her new man and make him the daddy.
You're kidding me, right?
Consider what's best for Walt. You can keep holding on if you want, but ask yourself why you're doing that. Is it really for him, or is it for you?
Bitch, are you for real?
It's a really crap situation, and even though it could be argued that she was just trying to give Walt a better life, she took away a loving father who would do anything for his son, and that's just evil. Many years later, her husband comes knocking on Michael's door, delivering the news that bitch mummy is dead, and being a dad is too difficult for him, so Michael can have Walt back. He also says that Walt is a bit special. Weird stuff happens when he gets upset, like in this scene where he and bitch mummy are ignoring him.
That's too much.
Hey, Brian, look. Look. You're not looking. You're not looking. Is it dead?
Yeah.
Back on the island, Michael feels desperate to get his son away from this island, so he sets out a plan to build a raft. Walt once again wanders off, and when Michael has a go at him for being disobedient, he runs away. Michael and Locke go on a search for him and hear him calling out for help, in danger of being mauled by this terrible looking CGI polar bear. They stab the bear in its pixels and the day is saved. Come evening time, Michael gives Walt all the letters that bitch mummy didn't give to him, and so finally Walt realises that he has a good father.
So, you drew these.
Just for you.
A penguin with the sunburn? That's dumb.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said.
Boone and Locke are out wandering in the woods, when suddenly they're startled by something approaching them. Oh my god, it's Claire.
You'll never take care of anyone.
Claire passes out, and when she comes to, she doesn't remember who anyone is or why she's on this island. So the group have to decide how to handle the situation. Do they tell her what happened to try and jog her memory? Or do they choose not to tell her to keep her calm? Naturally, Charlie yells at everyone for not being a simp like him.
You know what, you boys talk about Claire all you want. I'm actually going to go spend some time with her. I get the impression she might still be a tad upset.
He's not always been a white knight. Back in England, he ran scams on gullible, drunk, rich women who would lead him back home and then he'd steal their stuff. On his final attempt to pull this scam, he has a change of heart and actually gets friendly with the target's family, even taking up her dad's offer of a job so that he could attempt living a normal life. Which, of course, isn't easy when you're suffering from withdrawal. She eventually finds out what he was trying to do from the start, and asks why he would bother going so far with her, and he claims that he just wanted to look after her.
I wanted you to think that I could take care of you.
You'll never take care of anyone.
Well, here he is trying to look after Claire. Even though he's being a bit cringe with it, he gets points for trying. Ethan comes back and threatens Charlie that if he doesn't bring Claire back, he's going to start eliminating the group one by one. And true to his word, he takes out one random guy. I don't think the show even gave him a name until now.
So Steve drew the short straw. Dude, that was Scott.
So we know he's serious, but not serious enough to take out someone we care about. The following day, Claire puts herself forward to be the bait, while everyone else waits in the lookout points armed with guns. Ethan turns up and Jack gets his revenge with a good whooping. But then Charlie, being a moron, shoots the geezer down. So now they have no way of getting any information, all because he had to prove how much of a white knight he is. He's a very frustrating character at times.
I never kissed a man.
We see the trauma that Sawyer went through as a kid, witnessing his father ending himself after shooting his mother. Fast forward to when he's a grown-up, he gets some intel on the whereabouts of the man who caused it all. He approaches the seafood truck where he works, and for some reason this scene always makes me crave shrimp in hot sauce, even though I've never had it. It just sounds damn good.
Only two choices. Shrimp and mild sauce, shrimp and hot sauce.
Despite the build-up to this moment, he finds himself unable to pull the trigger. He goes to a bar to drink his sorrows and bumps into Jack's dad, but obviously he doesn't know who Jack is yet. And so the two become drinking buddies, discussing their regrets. Jack's dad says he loves his son dearly and is very proud of him, despite his statement to the medical board stripping his dad's license away. Problem is, he's too cowardly to pick up the phone and tell him this, so Jack still believes that his dad hates him.
There's a payphone over here. I could pick it up and I could call my son. One simple phone call and I could fix everything. Why don't you? Because I am weak.
He encourages Sawyer to finish his business here in Australia so that he can move on with his life. And so Sawyer goes back to the original Sawyer and shoots him dead. But it turns out this guy wasn't Mr. Sawyer. He's just some shrimp guy who owed the informant some money. The informant basically cons Sawyer into being a hitman.
You don't know what you're doing, do you? It'll come back around.
Back to the present, Sawyer is forming a beef with a boar. And there's a funny moment where Sayid comes along to bask in his misery.
And it came at me, so I hit it and ran off into the jungle.
With your top. Perhaps he wanted to go camping.
You enjoying yourself?
Yes.
Kate joins him in tracking the boar on the condition that she gets a carte blanche, meaning he has to give her what she wants from his stash whenever she requests something. As the day turns to night, they play the drinking game Never Have I Ever, where you take a drink if you've done the thing that your opponent says they never have. For example,
I never kissed a man.
the questions get deep and they both take a drink when the question is,
I never killed a man.
The next morning, the boar has ruined his stuff again, reinforcing his belief that the boar has a personal vendetta against him. But then John comes along with a story that basically demonstrates how humans like to imagine we have a connection with animals, as it allows us to hold on to certain beliefs, like dogs being able to see ghosts and stuff. When Sawyer catches up to the boar, he realises that all he's doing here is projecting.
It's just a boar.
I never kissed a boar.
Before the episode ends, he gets a chance to tell Jack that he met his dad, and knows what his true feelings were towards Jack. But Sawyer chooses not to reveal this right now. A bit of a weird choice, but we press on.
Stop it! Leave him alone!
One of the best episodes for sure. It's up there with Walkabout. Jin is asking Sun's father's blessing to get married, and Sun's dad questions him on why he would give up his dream job to come and work for him. That seems like a bit of a beta cuck move, bro, he says in Korean. But then Jin responds with the most poetic romance line ever.
꿈을 그렇게 쉽게 파는 사람에게 내 딸을 왜 줘야지?
따님은 제 꿈이니까요, 아버님.
Back on the island, Jin gets pissy at Sun again for showing too much skin, and Michael makes it his business to intervene when things get heated. Sun slaps him for getting involved, knowing that Jin has a shady past and it's dangerous for the situation to escalate any further. Then, going back to the flashback, we see how Jin's work got progressively more shady as he kept doing whatever her father demanded, like beating the crap out of some environmental guy who shut down one of the factories that Sun's father owns.
내일 바로 공장 문 열어. 내가 당신 목숨을 구했다는 걸 명심해.
What's cool is that we get to see more of the scene where Jin's washing off the blood, because we get to see that after Sun slaps him and leaves the room, he completely breaks down, knowing that he's on a dark path but sees it as the only way to maintain their marriage, without realising how close he is to losing it. Seeking advice from family, he begs his father for forgiveness, as he pretended that his father was dead, to save the shame of being raised by a fisherman.
용서하세요. 아버지가 부끄러웠어요. 괜찮다.
괜찮아.
A truly touching moment that will tug at the heartstrings of anyone who has a complicated relationship with their dad. Being a good father, of course he forgives Jin, and the two bond while doing chores. He advises Jin to stop what he's doing while he can still save his marriage, do one last job for her father, and then walk away. The job, of course, being to deliver the watch that Michael accidentally stole. Back at the beach, Michael despairs to see that someone burnt his raft. Naturally, he assumes that Jin did it in revenge. So Sawyer captures Jin and brings him to Michael to answer for what he did. And Michael begins beating him. Knowing that he didn't do it, Sun screams at them to stop, revealing to everyone else and her husband that she speaks English.
Stop it! Leave him alone! He didn't burn your raft.
Man, this scene gives me goosebumps. The look of hurt and betrayal on Jin's face right now is chilling. I love Jin and Sun's story. This couple were so fundamental to the quality of this show. It seems that Jin feels her secrecy is unforgivable and walks away tearfully, coming to the aid of Michael to rebuild his raft. Another awesome moment where so little is spoken, but so much is said.
Boat.
While playing a game of checkers, Locke has a very important question for Walt.
Hey, you mind if I ask you something?
Sure.
Why did you burn the raft, Walt? You must have had a really good reason.
I don't want to move anymore. I like it here.
Whoever has those numbers has won or will share in a near record jackpot.
The group discuss visiting Danielle to get one of her batteries, using it to power up a radio for Michael's raft. But Sayid warns that she is completely unhinged, so it could be a dangerous exchange. And then Hurley sees some numbers on her notes and has an internal freakout. But why is he feeling this way? Well, these are the same numbers that he played when he won the lottery.
4, 8, 15, 16, and 23 with the mega number 42. Whoever has
These aren't fortunate numbers, however, because it seems that ever since he played these numbers, really bad stuff happens.
Grandpa?
Oh, you go listen to yourself. The numbers are cursed. You know there is no such thing as a...
Believing that these numbers are somehow cursed, he goes to the man who gave him the numbers. This guy, who's stuck in a psychiatric ward. Hurley reveals that he played these numbers and the guy starts freaking out, telling him that he needs to go to Australia for answers. And it turns out this crazy guy used to work with another crazy guy, whose job it was to listen out for radio broadcasts across sea. And then one day they heard these numbers being repeated over and over. And just like Hurley, they decided to use these numbers in a contest. And things started going downhill.
So we won the money. On the way home, a pickup truck blows a tire on the highway. It's us head on. Lost my leg that night.
Hurley suggests that these numbers could be cursed, but the woman says don't be so daft. There's no such thing as bad luck. Bad things just happen sometimes. Back on the island, Hurley decides to go look for Danielle by himself, desperate to know the significance of these numbers. But when he finds her, she reveals that they have no significance to her either. She too heard them on a broadcast on repeat. But she does agree that these numbers are cursed, as she too has had nothing but bad luck since they came into her life. This comes as a massive relief to Hurley, knowing that he's not crazy.
You have no idea how long I've been waiting for someone to agree with me. Oh, God, thank you. Thank you so much.
Rousseau rigged her place to blow if any intruders came by. Apparently, she's more than ready to move on from this place. So the team get no batteries. There's a really nice moment where John recruits Claire for some manual labour, which seems like an odd choice at first, but then it's revealed that the project John was working on was a rocking crib for her baby, and it just so happens to be Claire's birthday.
Happy birthday, Claire.
Thank you.
The episode ends eerily as we see the bad luck numbers carved into the side of the hatch.
This can't be happening. You wouldn't do this to me.
You know, earlier when I called Walkabout my favourite episode, I think I lied to you because I completely forgot about Deus Ex Machina. I promise I'm only going to lie about 4 more times regarding my favourite episode.
I promise to go back on that promise.
Let's start with the flashback sequence. So, before John was disabled, he worked at a toy store, and this weird lady kept stalking him until she finally reveals that she's his mother, and then she makes the bizarre claim that he was immaculately conceived. John hires a private investigator to look into her, and it turns out that she was sectioned for schizophrenia. And of course, because immaculate conception is impossible, he has a father out there somewhere. And it's this guy, Anthony Cooper.
Something tells me I'm gonna want a drink for this.
Anthony seems chill at first, accepting John into his life and treating him like a son, hoping to make up for lost time. Then one day, John walks in, surprised to see Anthony on dialysis. Turns out he's dying and needs a new kidney. John gives him one of his kidneys, hoping to save the one person he has in his life. And he does save him, but he wakes from the surgery to find that Daddy has disappeared. John doesn't understand what's happening and is heartbroken when his dad refuses to see him.
This can't happen to me. You wouldn't do this to me.
I know you're watching me. You can't do this.
So yeah, in a nutshell, his own father conned him into giving a kidney. If you didn't feel bad for John before, you certainly feel it now. Back on the island, John is losing faith that he can get the hatch open, and in a weird coincidence, he's losing his ability to walk. He then has a strange dream where Boone is all bloody, and a small yellow plane crashes in the distance. This dream felt way too real to be ignored, and demands that Boone helps him to find the plane. John's faith starts returning when they do find the plane, and he hopes to find some answers here. But his legs are still wobbly, so Boone has to make the climb, only to find that this plane was used for drug smuggling.
Wanna know what's in your damn plane, Locke? Here's your sign.
As Boone tests out the radio, the plane starts falling down the cliff. John summons the strength to pick him up and take him to Jack, but it's not looking good for Boone. Jack goes to question John on what happened, but he's gone. On a lighter note, Sawyer has been getting constant headaches since they arrived, so Jack gives him some tests and discovers that he needs glasses. And without access to an optician's, they have to make a custom pair using glasses they scavenged.
Har har, very funny. Looks like someone steamrolled Harry Potter.
The episode ends with John exasperated, banging on the hatch window, begging for a sign to understand his purpose.
I've done everything you wanted me to do, so why did you do this to me?
Because I'm not good at letting go.
After watching this episode, I was intrigued to know the meaning behind the title, Do No Harm. And with my research, it appears to be a medical oath that people in the medical field have to swear to, ensuring that no unnecessary suffering is placed on the patients while performing their medical duty to solve the problem. For example, if someone has untreatable cancer, it could be considered cruel to place them on medication that you know could have adverse effects and put them in more pain, doing so based on an unproven theory that it could work. That's what I gathered from my research anyway, and I think it makes sense when applied to what's happening with Jack. Jack, being Jack, is desperately trying to save Boone's life, considering amputating his broken leg. But Sun is trying to convince him that Boone is done for, because his broken leg is not the only thing wrong with him. One of his lungs has collapsed, he's bleeding internally, and they have very little equipment to work with. So even though Jack is desperate to save him, there's a good chance that he's just prolonging his suffering. In a Jack flashback, we see him preparing his vows, as he's getting married tomorrow, and he happens to be marrying the woman that he saved from being paralysed. In a really nice scene, we see his dad coming to his side, and his support actually helps Jack to clear his mind from doubt. So when the time comes to give his vows, he just opens up with honesty.
I didn't write any vows because I'm not good at letting go. Or maybe I'm afraid of what'll happen if I fail.
This problem of not letting go still haunts him now, as he refuses to give up on Boone, who regains consciousness to ask that Jack let him die. While this is going down, Claire's having her baby, a very scary situation without Jack's help. But Kate successfully delivers the baby, and everyone rejoices.
I have a son. I have a son.
Having these two life events happen at the same time is a heavy watch. One of the few times I've cried in my life is when my son was born, and most of us watching this can say that we've experienced loss. So watching the combination of these two events really choked me up. And yes, of course, Michael Giacchino masterfully matched these feelings with a simple yet beautiful piano piece. The episode ends with Jack angrily walking off to find John.
He didn't die. He was murdered.
What? John Law killed my brother. Will you do something about that?
John unexpectedly turns up to Boone's funeral, and he tries to explain his side of the story, this time revealing some truth about how it happened. But after the ordeal that Jack's just been through, he's reached his mental limit.
Where were you? Where the hell were you, you son of a bitch? What did you do to her? Where were you? You just left him to die! You lied to me!
John hopes that Shannon can forgive him for what happened, but then she goes to Sayid and says, do something. Sayid does this by demanding that John shows him where it happened and how. His story checks out, but Sayid is still puzzled, because Boone said that there's a hatch involved, and John tries to play it off by saying, oh, Boone must have meant the hatch on the plane, because planes have hatches, you see. And at the end of the episode, Sayid calls him out on his BS, asking one last time for the truth. Oh, and also, John tells Sayid that he was the one who knocked him out when he was trying to get a signal, saying that he did so in everyone's best interest.
You ruined my chance to find the source. The source of a distress call that kept saying they're dead. It killed them all over and over. Is that a place you really want to lead people to?
The flashback part is interesting. Sayid gets recruited by the CIA to be an undercover terror bird. His mission is to reunite with his old college buddy, who is working with a whole group of terror birds on a new terror plan. Sayid's friend is the one who's been nominated as the sacrificial bird, but he's pretty scared, asking Sayid to join him in the sacrifice for moral support. Sayid's conscience gets the better of him, and he reveals to his friend that he's working with the CIA, and gives him a 5-minute head start to run. But his friend feels so betrayed by this, that he takes out his gun and writes an angry letter to Sayid, an act which involves zero blood or gore.
You want to tell us why you need to run so bad?
We meet a new character called Arst, but that's a silly name that I hate saying, so I'm just going to call him Leslie, because that's his actual first name, as the show later reveals. Leslie is a high school science teacher, and he warns the raft crew that monsoon season is about to begin, meaning that if they wait any longer to set sail, the flow of the current will take them to Antarctica.
So when do we have to leave?
Yesterday.
Leslie dies in the next episode, which really makes it feel like he was only introduced here to drive the plot forward, giving the raft crew a reason to set sail sooner rather than later. On to the flashback part. Kate is trying to visit someone in hospital, but she gets spooked by a cop waiting in the hall. Luckily, she happens to know Dr. Tom. She asks him to help her sneak in so that she can go visit whoever this is. He agrees to help, but says her only opportunity will be when the patient has an MRI scan. So you're gonna need to come back to my place and chill out for a while. While they wait out the time at his place, it's clear that Kate is envious of the solid family life that he's built, and that Kate and Tom used to be lovers. She wonders if their time capsule is still buried near a tree, and so they go dig it up to reminisce on the good times, finding his old toy plane. Yeah, remember that?
It belonged to the man I loved.
Stop lying to me. Tell me the truth.
It belonged to the man I killed.
And also, they find a mixtape they made together.
How do you know we'll be together? Because we'll be married, and
you'll be a mom and we'll have 9 kids.
I don't think so.
The chemistry between these two is still there, and hearing this mixtape again makes them thirst for the good times. Despite the naughty, dirty sin they're committing, you do really feel for Kate, knowing that this is the life she could have had if she wasn't on the run from the law. She gets her window of opportunity to visit the patient, and it turns out it's her mum.
Catherine, it's me.
This scene is very upsetting, not in a tearful way, but actually kind of frightening. Hear me out, look at the mum's expression when she realises who this is, and what she does in response.
Help! Help! It's okay. Help! Help!
God damn, this is so intriguing. What the hell could Kate have possibly done that would cause her own mother to call for help the very second she sees her again? Could you imagine your mum doing this to you? The tear rolling down her cheek tells us that she's not calling for help out of hatred, but more likely fear. Real bone-chilling stuff. Easily one of the most haunting scenes in the entire show.
Help! Help!
The police are alerted and Kate demands Tom's car keys, but he's not willing to let her go alone, so he stays in the car. The police then shoot at the car, but miss their target horribly, meaning poor old innocent Dr. Tom is now Dr. Dead.
Oh God, Tom! No, Tom! Please wake up.
Back on the island, she's trying to take Sawyer's place on the raft, and at first convinces Michael to let her do so. But when Captain Michael gets a mild poisoning from his water, suspicions arise as to who did it, with Michael suspecting that Sawyer did it, until Sawyer demonstrates that it's more likely to be Kate, as she's willing to do anything to secure her place on the raft. She's even stolen someone's passport.
Could it be she'd do just about anything to get on that raft? So she could get herself rescued, run off with a new identity before half the reporters in the world descend on this damn island?
Sawyer's defense wins his place back on the raft, and now everyone knows that Kate was the fugitive on the plane. Jack figures out that Sun was the one who did the poisoning, with her intended target being Jin, but they mixed up their water bottles, hoping it would make him too sick to leave the island. Jin still isn't talking to her, so she's getting desperate at this point. This is the episode where John shows Jack the hatch, which annoys Jack, wondering why he would keep this a secret. And John makes a very good point in saying,
All due respect, Jack, but since when do I report to you?
The others are coming.
The opening flashback makes Walt look like an absolute douche, waking up his dad at stupid o'clock to watch Power Rangers.
Did you at least turn it down, man?
But then it cuts back to the present and you see them sleeping next to each other. And you're like, oh, they made up. Danielle walks into the camp, raising the alarm with everyone who doesn't know who she is yet. And even Sayid is like, yo, what you doing here? And she warns them that others are coming. She gives some more information on these so-called others, with their calling card to warn that they're on their way, being this black smoke signal. And also that she had a baby called Alex before the others took her away. Jack decides to focus on helping Michael get the raft into the water, rather than investigating Danielle's warning, because who knows if she's telling the truth. But then the raft breaks as they attempt to move it, so looks like they have no choice but to look into the smoke situation. Jack looks at John, wondering if they can hide people in the hatch, but they've got to figure out how to open it first. So John asks Danielle if she has any more explosives, and she tells them to go find the Black Rock. Knowing that this may be the last opportunity he has, Sawyer finally tells Jack about meeting his dad, showing that deep down Sawyer has a heart, because he didn't need to give Jack this closure.
Christian. Tells me he wishes he had the stones to pick up the phone, call his kid. Tell him he's sorry. He's a better doctor than he'll ever be. He's proud. He loves him.
En route to the Black Rock, Danielle describes the forest monster as the island's security system, but she's got no more details to validate her claim. Back on the beach, Sawyer, Michael, Walt and Jin say their goodbyes. Walt leaves Vincent with Shannon to be her friend, which is very sweet. And then Jin finally opens up to Sun, saying that he believes he's being punished by fate for not being a very good husband. She begs him not to go, but he says, no, I must. All I can do to redeem myself is find rescue for you. If this scene wasn't sad enough, listen to this.
자기랑 같이 있어.
당신은 누가 지켜줄 거예요?
Damn, I love this couple. And I also love seeing the boat finally leave the island. The emotion is perfect, the music is perfect, and you're perfect for watching this far. Drop a like because I just said something nice to you.
How does a place this big never get discovered?
Claire's stressing out because the baby's crying, and she feels all alone getting the stuff together as everyone readies to evacuate the beach. But she's not alone because Charlie's here trying to help out.
Look, why don't you let me help?
No, look, nobody ever taught me how to do this, okay?
Claire, it's gonna be okay.
Oh, why do people keep telling me that? Are they the ones with the baby?
She's of course being unreasonable here, but under the circumstances, she gets a bitch pass, as any parent can tell you how stressful newborns can be. The Black Rock turns out to be an old ship, and I really wanted this to be a pirate ship, but depressingly no, it was a slave ship. Inside the ship, they find the dynamite and bring it outside, and Leslie starts freaking out, saying, look, this dynamite is volatile, because the sticks are sweating nitroglycerin. And while giving his speech about the dangers of handling this stuff... Oh no! Anyway, on the raft, the crew get a good look at the island, and Michael brings up the interesting point that an island this size should have been discovered by now. On an interesting side note, Sawyer starts singing a Bob Marley song.
Redemption song is all
Singing Bob Marley?
No. Why, you like Bob Marley?
Man, who doesn't like Bob Marley?
Now, this episode is called Exodus, and one of Bob Marley's albums is also called Exodus. But the weird thing is, he's singing Redemption Song, which isn't from the Exodus album, it's from the Uprising album. Surely a missed opportunity here to have that clever tie-in. Speaking of redemption, Michael and Walt have a nice moment where Walt asks why bitch mummy denied Michael visitation, and even though Michael defends her position, Walt says she was wrong for doing that. This sweet connection is interrupted by a log breaking the rudder. Sawyer saves the day, but Michael is disappointed to see that he smuggled a gun aboard the raft.
Here's your shirt. You should put that back on before you burn.
Back on the beach, Danielle raises the alarm to Charlie to get Saeed, but this was all a trick so she could be alone with Claire and the baby.
Why did I scratch you?
They rush to Claire's screams and see that the baby, called Aaron, has been kidnapped.
She took my baby!
Claire, which way did she go?
I don't know! She took my baby!
Claire's not having a great time so far, is she? The episode ends with Charlie finding the plane filled with the heroin-stuffed Virgin Marys, and he looks down in dread. POV, he looks at you while your finger is in the One Ring. I know that joke is disgusting, but I simply had to fit in a Lord of the Rings reference. We get our first look at the monster going through the jungle, and it's just a cute little trail of black smoke that makes these adorable little clicky noises. And yet, this minuscule critter is able to make this huge amount of chaos. I forget exactly how the show explains this creature later on, but I do remember this smoke monster being the thing that many people watching struggle to get on board with. John doesn't run away in fear like the others, convinced that the monster means him no harm, but when it tries dragging John into a hole, Jack's all like, screw that, I'm throwing dynamite at it. Let's cover the flashback parts real quick, as it's not important to the story, but I feel like people would be mad if I skipped over it. It's a silly and fun sequence of Hurley encountering bad luck as he rushes to catch his flight on time, getting all sweaty and then drenching this poor lady in his stank as he celebrates making the flight on time. My favourite part is him paying this old man a silly amount of money to borrow his mobility scooter.
Look out! Excuse me! Look out! Heads up! Coming through! Look out! Coming through!
Michael and Jin share their first moment of friendship, which is really nice to see considering how they started out. Aside from the rudder incident, their journey is going well, and while checking the radar, they finally detect what could be a boat. Sawyer's eager to use their one and only flare, but Michael protests, knowing they only get this one shot. But when the boat starts disappearing from the radar, he goes for it.
Please, God.
And they're ecstatic when the boat approaches, but not is all as it seems.
There's a whole group of people on the other...
Ain't that something?
Yeah!
Only the thing is, we're gonna have to take the boy.
What? What'd you say?
They kidnap Walt and explode the raft. But why would they do this, and who are they? While we wonder about that mystery, another mystery lies within the hatch. They set the fuse on the dynamite and Hurley starts going crazy when he sees the cursed numbers written on the hatch. But John has come too far to stop now, so he lets the explosion happen. When the smoke clears, they see it's a long way down and the ladder is busted. Who knows what awaits them at the bottom? What a fantastic first season, and I'm sure you're eager as I am to find out what happens in season 2. If you want to see these videos early, consider supporting me on Patreon, just like these lovely people here.